Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.
Ivory Coast has been one of the world's biggest coffee producers for over half a century, but not everyone here enjoys its strong flavor.
Local coffee, it's too bitter.
It's too bitter.
It's too bitter.
A small group of farmers and coffee connoisseurs are now on the mission to change that and revive the Ivorians' love affair with homegrown beans.
So you can see the difference. This one is an Arabusta, and this one is a Robusta. So the Arabusta one is bigger than the Robusta one.
The taste is wonderful. It's sweet. Even if you take it like this, it's sweet. So the fact is, this plant is the best. The Arabusta is the best.
This is Ivory Coast. This is Inside Africa. There are two main types of coffee grown in the world, coffee Arabica and coffee Robusta. Ivory Coast's largely flat terrain is better suited to growing Robusta. It is often used to make instant coffee because of its high caffeine levels.
Here in Côte d'Ivoire, I think people are drinking coffee in the street, but they don't even know how to prepare it.
Pascal Porquet runs the Bushman Café Hotel in Abidjan, which exclusively serves local Ivorian coffee.
People say that our coffee is bitter and it's strong, but no, it's just the way it's prepared. So with my husband, we say, okay, we're just going to do it really naturally, as the way they do it in the village or in the region where it comes from. So we have the green seed. We're taking it, we roasted it every day, and we prepare the coffee that we are offering to our guests. And this is the way I love to taste my coffee.
People actually sit together to enjoy that type of coffee. There's a change, there's a growing community of coffee lovers who actually admire or love the old ritual of good coffee, the really fresh coffee in the morning. It's not the Nescafe, but it's just the regular local coffee in the kiosk at home, the way Pascal does it.
For us, it's just a way to share our love to our local product, to show to everybody like it was before. Robusta is good, it's not as bitter that it can be, it's just the way it has been prepared.
Robusta is not the only coffee grown in Ivory Coast.
We have something special called the Arabusta. It's like something secret that people actually don't know when they come to Abidjan, but they can discover.
Arabusta is a rare bean grown in the mountains of Man in the west of the country. It combines the strength of Robusta with the local floral flavors of Arabica. It's also known as the presidential coffee, as it was grown at the request of the country's first president, Félix Houphouët-Boigny, who wanted something milder and sweeter than Robusta.
La Côte d'Ivoire produit la Robusta depuis les années 60.
Côte d'Ivoire has been producing Arabusta since the 1960s, but in this area of Baton-Wen, I've been working with farmers since 2012. Arabusta is a wonderful cash crop. It blends the flavors of Robusta and Arabica, and it is also profitable since it is purchased at a better price than the other types of coffee. This is a major crop for this region since the climate proves suitable for its cultivation. So this plant is important for this region.
Bernard Quadio has been training Arabusta farmers for the past 30 years.
The farmer prepares the area he is going to grow his coffee. That means that he has to clean up the site and cut all the big trees that may be on that area just because coffee trees should not be cultivated under a shaded area as they need light. Then he has to cut the big trees. Just after this step comes the staking phase. During this phase, we have to consider the density. The plants are spaced out at 3 meter by 2.5 meter intervals. With these measurements, we can normally fit 1,333 plants per hectare, but on the ground it is sometimes 1,320 plants for 1 hectare. After that, we start making the holes. The holes have some specific measurements too. The depth should be 40 centimeters and also 40 centimeters in each direction. Also, we have to separate the ground soil from the underground soil while digging. The ground soil is made of moist layers rich for the plants. Once we finish placing the plants in the holes, we fill in the holes by putting first the ground soil and then the underground soil. Coffee normally grows with many stems. That is why you have to angle the coffee tree at 32 degrees from the ground during the planting phase, so that the other stems can grow easily as well as the main stem that should be cut some months later while maintaining 3 or 4 final stems on the tree.
The farmers say it'll take up to 2 years for this plant to produce beans. These trees were planted by Matthias Sadia's grandfather, who specialized in Arabusta farming.
The Arabusta is a real source of income for our family. This farm run by my grandfather and father helped put me through school, and it's transformed our daily lives. This is why I have advised my children to continue with the farm even if they have jobs in the city.
Arabusta plants produce a higher yield than other coffee varieties.
My farm is 1 hectare. My Arabusta harvest sometimes reaches 2.5 tons. I have the same size farm as my neighbor who grows another coffee variety, mainly Robusta, but he doesn't reach 2 tons.
In this village, I've noticed the improvement in the villagers' houses. The village chief is one of the biggest Arabusta producers with a large farm. He built his house in a modern way because of the income he gained from farming Arabusta, even if he owns other coffee varieties. He is a perfect example of the benefits from Arabusta farming. Many others have seen their lives changed by the income gained through growing Arabusta.
Growing Arabusta is more lucrative for farmers, as it's sold to supermarkets for 3 to 4 times the price of Robusta. This is down to the more complicated drying process involved.
For the Arabusta, the problem is when we dry the beans, they don't dry as quickly as other varieties of coffee. The Arabusta needs to be crushed before drying, and we do it by hand with old-fashioned methods. For succeeding in growing Arabusta, we need support from donors. We need small drying units that will help us crush and dry our produce after harvest. Harvesting is not a problem, and if we have units that can help to freshly crush the beans, that will be useful.
Agripreneur Andre Broad-Mensah was the first to produce espresso capsules using Arabusta beans and is working with the farmers to develop the crop.
The challenge at the moment is to find all the farmers that are producing Arabusta and then motivate the farmers who are still hesitating to grow this crop. We are planning to help them process the beans they harvest. Arabusta is a pure wonder the Ivory Coast is blessed with. It's pretty outstanding. I think this treasure should be preserved. It is definitely the identity of Ivory Coast, since it cannot be found in other parts of the world.
There's a special way of roasting the beans to preserve their distinctive flavor.
You have to take time to roast and roast again.
Tucked away in a glade 50 kilometers from Ivory Coast's economic capital Abidjan is a state-of-the-art machine.
Everything is digital and computerized. It's the highest technology. I'm not sure you can find somewhere else in Côte d'Ivoire such a technology.
Agripreneur Andre Broad-Mensah built this roasting plant in his backyard to develop the flavors of Ivory Coast's rare Arabusta coffee beans.
This coffee is unique. This is the only place you can find in the world, so it's quite exceptional. So we have to work on it. We have to prove that this coffee can be one of the best. This is a natural blend, so it's all the time the same taste. So you don't have to blend it and to see how it is. It's like this. You roast it and you have the results. And it's a very good coffee. You have to try it. You have to try it. It's exceptional.
Arabusta originated in the Ivory Coast in the 1960s, but it's always remained a niche coffee. Less than 100 tons is produced every year compared to 120,000 tons of the more common Robusta.
So you need more temperature and more time to roast the Robusta. And for the Robusta, it's smaller, so you need less temperature and much less time.
The Arabusta is also roasted in small batches to refine its flavor.
We roast really small quantities because the process is very specific and hard to do. Comparing to big manufacturers or big roasters, you can roast at least 1 ton by hour. So 10 or 20 more than this roaster. But this roaster is very precise. We are the only one that use a specific roasting process, specific profile for these beans. Because we have worked on it. And it takes time to learn how the project is. It's very particular, so you have to take time to roast and roast again. We take the beans from here and we put it in the roaster for about 15 minutes, and the temperature change. We start at 210 and then it gets down because the product is cold, and then it goes up again until 240 or 245. We have at least 3 recipes for the Arabusta, depending on the temperature. We have a light profile, that's we called classic Arabusta. We have a medium profile, that is this is a black edition Arabusta, and we have a dark profile, a very heavy roasted, and this is a blue label. So we have 3 different types of recipe for the Arabusta.
Roord Mensa experiments with recipes to try to attract new coffee drinkers.
The latest recipe we're working on is Arabusta, pepper, and ginger. People say, I don't like coffee, but in fact, they do like it. You just have to roast it in the right way, and we are doing the first chocolate with Arabusta. Some small chocolates with Arabusta roasted beans in it, and it's very good. You have to test it too.
Every element in the building is carefully monitored and controlled, even the room temperature.
In fact, the temperature of the room doesn't concern really the beans, it concerns the machine that we use to pack the final product. Because some of the machines are really specific and technologically high level, and they don't work on temperature higher than 35. So we have to keep it under 30.
Once roasted, the beans are grounded and packaged.
This is a coffee for coffee bags. Because the advantage of Arabusta is that the level of caffeine is not too high. It's half the level of Robusta. So everybody can drink it.
The next plan is to try to grow the Arabusta here on site.
I'm quite sure that we will be able to have a very good opportunity and a good business plan with the National Research Center, because this is their project at first. And we are trying to farm with them and to help them planting and so on. So to develop the farms with them, their farms. We are also going to plant our own Arabusta, have our own plantation, and we are going to develop cooperation with the local farmers. But they don't have lots of place for the plantation, you know. It's in the mountains, and the space is quite limited for that. So we are going to do an experimentation here in Azagué with the center to see if we can farm the Arabusta here. It should be possible because it's a rainy place, and we are going to try it next year. And if it's okay, we will try to have more space here in the region.
Broad Mensa insists, however, that Arabusta production will remain small.
Coffee, Arabusta is similar to wine. You have to take care of it. It's not so easy to grow. You have to fill the project. You have to live the project. And it's not an industrial way of doing business. And Arabusta, it's exactly the same thing. We will keep it as a niche. Côte d'Ivoire secret, that's it.
The coffee is only sold in a few supermarkets and shops in Abidjan, but its reputation is growing.
You can see the balance between the flavor. It's strong, but smooth at the same time.
Inside a boutique coffee shop in Abidjan, the stage is being set for a special coffee tasting.
This is the coffee they are waiting for. Good coffee, eco-friendly, organic, affordable, everything you can find in this coffee, and the taste.
Ivory Blue specializes in locally farmed Robusta coffee, as well as the rare Arabusta variety.
In fact, people here used to drink Robusta. They don't know this new product called Arabusta. So the issue is to make them discover, because it's not so easy to find this product on the market.
I'm a great coffee drinker. I used to have, let's say, 6-8 cups a day, which is quite a lot. And I'm intending now to push that down to up to 4 cups per day. This one definitely is a Robusta. You can see that it's very strong, very, very strong. This one you can see definitely there is more balance between the flavors. So you can see that it's Arabusta, this one, the second one. For me, this is the way of success. If they can sell out a lot of Arabusta, it will be very, very good. And it will reward Ivory Coast, because Ivory Coast has been a long-standing coffee producer. And Arabusta, to me, it's quite unique. We should drink Arabusta in Ivory Coast.
Despite being one of the world's biggest coffee producers, there's not a big coffee culture in Ivory Coast.
Ivorians are not great coffee drinker, but honestly, it was not part of our culture basically. But there is still great drinkers, I must say. And you can see even in Abidjan, you can see some more shops are opening only focus on only coffee. So basically, it's come to become basically normal way of living in Ivory Coast now.
Tunisian coffee chain Café Bourdin opened their first shop in Abidjan last year.
Nous sommes là surtout pour mettre en valeur le café ivoirien.
We're here to promote Ivorian coffee and make the Ivorian people understand the quality of their coffee. We saw that Ivorians don't realise how excellent their coffee is, and we are here to address this unacceptable situation.
Et nous sommes là pour rattraper cette anomalie. Nous avons sélectionné les meilleurs.
And we've selected beans from the famous coffee-producing regions. We have coffee from Man and coffee from Aboisseau, but we are still considering the quality coffee from other regions of the country, like Abengoro and so on.
Et ainsi de suite.
Café Bourdin also sources beans from across the continent, only serving African coffee to their customers.
Pour nous, notre slogan, c'est un café africain.
Our company's motto is an African coffee roasted by Africans and for Africans. Of course, we're targeting all types of consumers, and when I say for Africans, I mean all the people living in the African continent. In fact, African coffee is not promoted enough as being the origin of coffee in the world, which was Ethiopia. Africa is the birthplace of coffee. This is one of the reasons why we are marketing the Ethiopian coffee called Yirgacheffe, which was the first coffee grown in the world. In Africa, we can find amazing coffee varieties whose quality is among the best in the world, but not really promoted internationally. Unfortunately, all the African countries export their green coffee beans, which are roasted in other countries and mixed in with other coffees from other countries. In Africa, we really don't know the value of our coffee, and so we are here to promote it.
The cafe chain chose Ivory Coast as their first stop in West Africa to take advantage of the untapped market.
The countries where you can find a good coffee culture in West Africa include Senegal. For me, this is a paradox. Senegal doesn't produce coffee, but consumes it much more than the Ivory Coast. Also in East Africa, the coffee culture they have is simply amazing, particularly Ethiopia, which is the #1 consumer in Africa. This part of the African continent cannot be compared to the Ivory Coast or West Africa, as far as coffee culture is concerned, just because the gap is very huge.
Ivory Coast's burgeoning community of coffee lovers, farmers and agripreneurs are growing local traditions and appreciation of their presidential bean.
It's my favorite coffee, and I think I need my coffee from Côte d'Ivoire in the morning. It's very important for me when I wake up.
Robusta beans are raw beans that you can only find in Côte d'Ivoire. It's like keeping some gold in your backyard, and nobody knows that you have something exceptional. So we try to take it from there and show it to other people, to say, that's what we are, and you have to discover it and to taste it.
It's our project. We don't know the value we have here. We are organizing ourselves also to sell our local and homemade coffee to prove to everybody again that Robusta is as good as it has been and will always be.
Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.